Niall McGrath and Fergus Ryan here at Team Ryano MMA in Finglas in Dublin, Ireland, here to break down UFC Fight Night, McGregor versus Siver, which goes down obviously this Sunday night in the TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. Fergus, obviously it's a really big card. I think the whole of the country is looking forward to it. If Conor wins, obviously he gets a title shot. There's a whole host of other Irish guys in the card. Feelings, general emotions going into this week?
I mean, it's a great way to kick off the MMA year. It's been a great month with a couple of signings, new signings to the UFC. Straight away, we've got 4 of the lads in action. We only have to wait a week then to see a few more lads in action in Sweden. So fantastic January. I'd be amazed results-wise now if we're sitting in the first week of February disappointed about what happened in January. I think there's some really good matches for the Irish lads. I think style-wise and skill-wise, I think they match really well with their opponents. So yeah, it should be a great January. It should be a good couple of events. Yeah,
I can't wait for it myself. It's going to be an absolute barn burner obviously this weekend. First off on the card, for an Irish point of view, we have Paddy Holohan who goes up against Shane Howell. In my opinion, this fight, it's written in the stars. Everything that adds toward, looks towards a Paddy Holohan victory. Paddy's obviously coming off a loss against Chris Gladys when he took the fight in 2 weeks' notice. His opponent Shane Howell, he's susceptible to be choked out, and obviously we know Paddy's a great choke artist. I said that last on the podcast, but yeah, I'm going to say it again. But Paddy, obviously rear naked choke is one of his specialities. So it lines up well for Paddy this fight.
Yeah, Paddy's a great submission artist. No, I think if we think about the Dublin fight, everyone made lots about Paddy's ground game and how good he is on the deck in his submission game. And he came in first minute, rocked Josh Sampo, put him on the deck, and that kind of set the tone for the rest of the fight. All we need Paddy to do is have a first round like he did against Chris Gladys and like he did against Josh Sampo. And I don't think Shane Howell will be able to stay at that pace. Like you said, he's been choked out 4 or 5 times from his back. Paddy's, well capable of doing that to someone if he gets a chance. So Howell seems to be a bit of a wild man, doesn't check kicks, not much head movement, loads up for big punches. So I think it's tailor-made for Paddy to use his speed, his guile, to get it down or drop him with a punch and I have first round victory for me all the way. Yeah.
I spotted Paddy last week, as I mentioned to you. Paddy was very disappointed, obviously, the last time the way the fight went. He tired after the first round. He was quite, he said to me that he loaded up too quickly after the weigh-ins with the carbs. He's not going to make this mistake this time. Paddy slowed a lot in the second and third round. We're not going to see that again from Paddy this time, are we?
I doubt it. I mean, UFC Dublin, everything was on the home stretch. Like I remember. I was in the hotel the UFC were using, having a coffee with Neil Seary, and Paddy walked in to do some media stuff, and he'd slept in his own bed that night. That was I think it was the Wednesday or Thursday before the event. So everything at UFC Dublin was just the best the Irish lads will ever have it. It was on their doorstep. They were able to stay at home. Everything was familiar. Their surroundings. They were training in their own gym. That's not going to happen hardly ever. That might happen once a year for them. So now everything's different. They're overseas. They're traveling. There's weight cut, on a plane. It's harder. But, Paddy, there was a couple of issues with Paddy's fight. The reload, you say, he mentioned. There was an issue about the stool, getting the stool in between rounds, first and second. All these mistakes are teething problems. I doubt they'll be made again. I'd expect Paddy we'll see on Sunday night would be very similar to the Paddy we saw at UFC Dublin.
Yeah, I completely agree. Obviously, big fight for Paddy and Shane Howell in the UFC, which obviously kicks off the Irish interest on Sunday night. Moving on, Pendred goes up against Sean Spencer in I think it's the headline of the prelim card, which will obviously be on BT Sport 1 over here, Fox Sports in the US. It's a big fight for Cathal. Obviously, Sean Spencer is bringing something different than his previous opponents. First of all, how do you perceive Sean Spencer as a fighter?
I think he's a good fighter. He's dangerous. But he's not brilliant at anything. I think we heard last night Figure Farrell on your podcast, Figure Farrell talking about him having some Golden Gloves experience. But he doesn't knock people out. He doesn't submit people. I don't think his wrestling is going to be a threat for Cathal. He's a good fighter. It's going to be dangerous. The only way I can see Sean Spencer winning is if he gets Cathal to stay 3 rounds and it goes all the way to the judges' scorecards. For me, though, I don't think it's going to get that far. I think Cathal, he'll probably out-wrestle him. He'll probably be able to stop him if he does get him down with ground and pound. And I don't see this one lasting the full 3 rounds, yeah.
And we've seen, Sean as a guy who has never been knocked out in his career. Is Cathal? You said where are you going to look for Cathal to win this? When we look at the submission, is he going to dominate him on the ground? Is that the way you're looking that this fight is going to be finished?
Yeah, Spencer comes forward. Like he's going to push the pace, which is you're walking into Cahill's takedowns. I think Cathal gets him down. I don't think he might not knock him out, or he mightn't put him out, but I think he'll do enough to get the referee to stop it, to coax a stoppage out of the ref. I think once Cathal gets you down, you tend to stay down, and it's going to be a tough night for you.
Do you think we're going to see improved? Obviously, Cathал's stand-up has improved, tenfold since the Ultimate Fighter. Do you think we're going to see Cathal use that a little bit more, or is he going to rely on his grinding style?
No, most definitely. I think he'll feel the fight out. He'll see how he's getting on the feet. Maybe this guy's stand-up is a lot better than I'm giving him credit for, and if that's the case and Cathal feels that, he'll just take it to the deck. I've no doubt Cathal, if he feels he's going to get the better of him on the feet, will keep it there, and we'll see some of the stuff that he's been working on. We've all seen the training videos and spinning shit as Nick.
Yeah, he's added kicks as well to his repertoire. He's done a lot of spinning kicks we've seen recently. Will that play into the equation?
I'm sure it will. It's like one thing you constantly hear about SBG is encouragement towards trying things or adapting new tactics or new skills, just trying to round your entire skill set out. So look, if he's been working on something that we haven't seen before, I've no doubt that we'll see it on Sunday night.
So ultimate prediction for you?
Yeah, I think Cathal stops him. Maybe not the first round, but let's go round 3.
There you have it, round 3. I'm going to go a decision victory for Cathal. I think he's going to grind it out and win this. I think Spencer's a little bit better than people are giving him credit for, but obviously looking forward to that one. Let's move on. Obviously, kicking off the main card is Norman Parke against a beast in Gleeson Tibau, a huge lightweight fighter. I presume Gleeson's cutting at least 30 to 40 pounds. I would believe, because he's that big. This is a real tough test for Norman Parke. A really powerful Tibau. But where does Norman win this fight? Because we've seen Tibau obviously in his previous fights, as I mentioned last night on the podcast, that I don't think he's ever won a third round in his UFC history. And I think that says something about the stamina and the weight cut, how much it takes out of him. How do you see this going for Norman?
Well, that's pretty much it, isn't it? Tibau is an incredibly dangerous fighter. I think he's got something like 20 odd fights in the UFC. Debuted, I think, he debuted in the UFC around the time Norman was making his MMA debut, so that's how long he's in the game. Obviously great on the deck, great BJJ, good takedowns, hits hard. So how does Norman beat that? Well, he just stays on his feet, he stays busy, he stays active, he keeps moving, and he just outboxes Tibau, outworks him, outboxes him, drags him around the ring, has, gets in and gets out, and has Tibau maybe chasing him around the octagon, and just stays light in the feet.
That's probably the way he wins it, is to keep Tibau busy and wear him out till, obviously we've mentioned the third round, that he's not going to win the third round. I think you can be guaranteed that if it goes that far. But Norman doesn't want to get involved in a clinch game against Tibau up against the cage, look for that dirty boxing and possibly a takedown like we've seen Norman in the past, because I think Tibau will just be too physical and strong to take down. We've seen him against Pat Healy, against Nurmagomedov, and they didn't have much success in taking him down in that sort of similar position.
Like lots will be made about Tibau's size. Like Norman's a big dude as well at lightweight. I think Norman will, he'll obviously cut down to 70, 155, but he'll be over 80 by the time he gets back in the octagon. So he'll be up around middleweight, 185 pounds. Tibau, I think, goes up to 190, 200 pounds by the time he's back now. So it's not like he's going to have a few pounds in him, but it's not going to be like 20, 30 pounds. Norman is, he's got his judo background and his wrestling background. He's looked better in every single UFC fight we've seen. He was originally supposed to take on Jorge Masvidal, who's ranked number 13. So the UFC must think Norman's up to the task of Masvidal. So they certainly think he's well able for the challenge of Tibau. I'm probably going to buck the trend here and think that Norman will either take this on decision or maybe stop him late in the third.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Norman Parke decision. I think if he keeps Tibau working on the feet, obviously I think PT mentioned last night in the podcast as well that footwork's going to be crucial for Norman. His boxing has come on leaps and bounds. Obviously in Manchester, I think it was against John Tuck, looked really good on his feet. So if you can get in, get out, and keep Tibau moving, I think this is where he wins the fight. I'm going to go for a decision. Exactly. Okay, moving on. Obviously last night we learned that the Uriah Hall fight has been put to the side for the moment, so we don't know who he's going to face yet. There's plenty of contenders that are willing to step up on the short notice. So let's go to the co-main, such as possibly Chris Fields. It's been talked about.
Yeah, he's over there. He's a middleweight.
Yeah,
you know, the UFC know who he is.
Makes sense for me, definitely. Yeah, I think Chris said it would be at a catchweight if he used to do it. But listen, Uriah Hall's a massive middleweight, so I don't think he would protest too much to that being a catchweight. Okay, moving on to one of the best fights on the card, probably the best matchup on the card. Donald Cowboy Cerrone, who's taking this fight in 2 weeks' notice, obviously coming off that victory against Miles Jury. He wasn't impressed with the performance. He begged the UFC brass to put him back in as soon as he could. I think he camped out in the office nearly, and he's taking the fight, obviously stepping in for Eddie Alvarez to face up against Benson Henderson. What a fight. These guys, two guys have fought twice before. Obviously Benson Henderson getting the better. I think it was back in 2009, 2010. What a barn burner of a fight for us.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I actually, again, I'm probably going to book the trend here and think that Henderson is going to be too much. If we think about the fighters that Cerrone has lost to, he's lost to Henderson twice. More recently, he lost to Rafael dos Anjos, who gets a crack at the belt next, I believe. He lost to Anthony Pettis, who has the belt at the moment. And he lost to Nate Diaz maybe 2-3 years ago when Diaz was on his way to a title shot. So for me, Henderson is the level of competition that Cerrone has struggled against. I don't think Henderson has got worse. Yeah, he's dropped his belt to Pettis. He lost to dos Anjos. But look, dos Anjos is getting a crack at the title. So, you know, lots of people lose to dos Anjos. I thought Henderson got caught in a really un-Ben Henderson type of way. He's usually well able to stay out of harm's way, out of danger. And you just got caught up against the cage. So for me, I think it's Henderson's to lose. He's beaten him twice. Cerrone's just fought 2 weeks ago. He's got to get himself up again to fight again. This event might even be bigger. It's certainly a bigger fight and a bigger name for Cerrone. So I prefer Henderson in this one.
Yeah, it's a very risky thing to do, obviously, take the fight in 2 weeks' notice. But is there not a point for, you know, Donald has obviously opened up his own ranch, up his training gym. He's training a lot more there, obviously, with the likes of Paul Felder, Pat Healy's been down amongst that. He's brought in a lot of his own coaches. He goes down to Jackson Winklejohn quite a bit. But have we not seen a huge improvement in Donald's game, even in the last year, in his performances? Yes, but against the fighters he's been fighting, I think people would have thought Cerrone was going to win those fights. As I said, there's a level that he's just fallen short against, and I think Benson Henderson is one of those fighters at that level that it just might be a step too far for him at this stage. Listen, I like Cowboy. I love him as a fighter. It'd be great if he wins. I hope he wins. I just don't think he will. Is there a case to make as well, also, I mentioned this to you before we came on here, that Benson Henderson has possibly, you know, he's taken a lot of decisions he shouldn't have won. He's basically gone the opposite way to Cerrone. He hasn't been as effective in his last number of fights than he normally would. We obviously saw against dos Anjos, he took that shot and he went limp and the fight was stopped. Is there a case for that as well? Absolutely. He's not really a fan favourite, and it's been because of the decisions. He came out of WBC known as a finisher, though. Like he choked out Cerrone. You know, he had a couple of good submission wins. Then he comes into the UFC. He on the way to the belt, he gets a couple of decisions. Holding the belt, he gets a couple of decisions. A lot of people thought some of them, you know, were a bit unjustified. At least one of the ones against Edgar and one of the Josh Thompson fight. So he's lost popularity, but I don't think that's diminished him as a fighter. I still think he's pretty elite level. It's going to be a barn-burning fight. So your ultimate prediction on let's have a round. I think you're going to go with the finish for this one. I can't remember what I said last time, but I think I said Henderson in the first. I think it was pretty ballsy. I think I said Henderson in the first by a sub. I'm going to go the opposite way. I think Donald Cerrone is going to pull it out here. I'm going to go submission. I think he's going to do something magic off his back. I can see Henderson and him having a bit of a grappling match, a bit of stand-up. I think it's going to go all over the place. It's going to be a really interesting one. So I'm going to look for Donald Cerrone, second round submission. Okay. There we go. Okay, main event of the evening. Obviously a huge fight for Mr. Conor McGregor and for Irish mixed martial arts. Obviously we know if Conor wins this, he gets the title shot. And we'll be talking football stadiums hopefully this time next week. I think we are talking football stadiums already. Yeah. Whether, you know,
you know,
exactly. The rumours are that Croke Park's been booked on Lansdowne Road, and it's just a matter of who's going to get the nudge to host the event. But thoughts does Dennis Siver have a chance? Everyone's writing Dennis off. Conor's going in, I think, a 1-11 on favourite. It is Conor's to throw away, really.
I think only for Dennis Siver is on the poster, no one would know who Conor is fighting. It's been the most one-sided hype for a fight, I think, not since Jake Shields fought Dan Henderson in Strikeforce. When I don't think even Shields was on the poster for that one. I
think there's 3 seconds of Dennis Siver in the promotional video, so that's how much.
So does he have a chance? Of course he does. He's a puncher's chance. He's got a good striking background. We've seen him use that incredibly well in his long UFC career so far. I think something new that we've seen in his last couple of fights is that his wrestling has definitely improved. Does he have a chance? Yeah, he does. He's got a puncher's chance, but it's incredibly slim. I think
How's this fight going to start? Are we going to see Dennis Siver going out and possibly looking for a takedown, obviously against Charles De La Rosa? Or are we going to see, him charge at Conor and, maybe run into one of Conor's, punches or kicks or...
Yeah, anyone who charges at Conor doesn't usually do well. We saw Brandao do it, didn't work out for him. We saw Brimage kind of get into his face early, didn't work out for him. So I would say, Conor's talked about this fight not getting past 2 minutes. John Kavanagh said it won't get past 1 minute. For that to happen, you need Siver to race forward or you need Conor to bull at Siver. I don't think that scenario happens either. Conor's not careless.
Do you think it's going to go a bit longer than a lot of other people are predicting?
I do. I think Siver gets on his bike. And Conor's not careless. He doesn't chase guys down recklessly and just wing shots in to try and get a shot off. He's very calculated and he rarely throws something that he doesn't think is going to land. So if Siver's on his bike and backing away, I think it's going to be hard for Conor to get him in range. That's why I think it might get out of the first. I think he stops him in the second, though, at the latest, if not late in the first. But I just can't see a scenario where Siver bulls in. I think, he hasn't done his homework if he does that. And I don't think Conor's the careless, reckless fighter that maybe people think he is because he tries things that look crazy. He's too calculated, too clever for that type of stuff. So that's why I think it maybe lasts a bit longer. But I think he does stop him. I think he probably knocks him out. We've seen Siver's a bit chinny. We've seen him do the stanky leg a couple of times in fights. So yeah, I think he knocks him out. I'm going to say early in the second, if not late in the first.
I'm going to go with the opposite first. I think it's going to go. I can't see it going outside 2 minutes. I think Conor's being too much, too strong. Going to look for it on the feet. Obviously, change that karate stance up, which we always do. We see the elusive feet, looking for probably some capoeira kicks as well. He'll throw in there, but ultimately, I think it's going to be something along the lines of the Marcus Brimage fight. I think Siver's going to try and get in his face, and he's going to get caught.
You think John's more correct than Conor? Closer to a minute than 2?
No, 2 minutes. I'll just over 2 minutes. I'm going to go with, but what a night of fights it is for Irish mixed martial arts, and obviously Sweden coming up the week after. So. We're just very excited.
Steeped, yeah, great January.
What a January, yeah, it's good. We're actually happy in January for a change, so really looking forward to it. Obviously, big thanks to the guys here at Team Ryano for letting us shoot the video here today. Obviously, we were talking about Niall Seary next week from Stockholm. So you can find Gus, obviously, you're on Twitter, Gus. What's your handle?
At GusRyan100.
And you can find me at Niall McGrath 4, and you can find Gus obviously on Setanta MMA.
We're at Setanta MMA Show, and we're on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher.
You have a lot of stuff coming up this week.
We should have at least one podcast, plenty of articles on Setanta.com, and a few things probably on independent.ie as well.
Brilliant stuff. And I'll be on, I think, Game On this week on 2FM, so check that out. And we'll have loads of podcasts up during the week. We've done a review last night, so you can check that out, download that. And then we'll have, I believe, who have I got on the podcast? Chris Beale this week, Paddy Holohan, Luca Fury, and then next week we'll be catching with Dan Henderson and Ryan Bader. So thank you guys for checking out the video, and we'll catch you next week. And make sure to tune into the fights, obviously, this weekend on BT Sport 1 and Fox Sports if you're in the US. Thanks a million, guys, for checking out the video.